Welcome back to This is the Waypoint, the one show here on Shared Screens where we talk all things Star Wars. Today we're talking Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 8, Chapter 24, The Return. Oh my god, always a mouthful. I'm joined by Alec, Jordan, and the man himself, Jim Tasty. Chris fucking died on an explosion on Mandalore, so rest in peace.
Turns out he was working with Moff Gideon this entire time.
Yeah, he's just a
He
deformed
was the
clone.
spy we were trying to find.
Anyways, as usual, full spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, get the hell out of here. Come back once you have, because we're about to dive deep into this thing. And Brett, I want you to take it away. What are your general thoughts on this episode?
Oh boy.
Good start.
Yeah, like I don't know, man. It was tough. It was tough. Like, there's some cool parts, but it didn't have the magic, man. It didn't feel it.
Interesting. Alec, thoughts?
Honestly, the first or most of this finale can just be summed up in one word: hype. Like,
I agree.
Here we were, there's all these theories going around last week. I've been seeing all these TikToks of people trying to figure out who the spy could have been.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, no spy. Nope, just Mandalorians becoming one, taking down Moff Gideon. And we get to see Mando have his little Thanos moment of just him sitting in his house, just chilling,
finally,
waiting for his next adventure.
Yeah, I loved it. Jordan,
Same.
thoughts?
I thought it was great. I mean, action scenes were amazing. We got an amazing hallway scene, but this time in segments, which was super fucking cool. And everything is wrapped up so nicely. I can't help but wonder if this is a finale, and they're not telling us. Because if the show ended here, I'd be like, they did it. This is great.
Yep.
Right, absolutely. I liked it quite a bit. I loved what was our runtime? I think like 38 minutes, something like that.
Like 40 including credits.
Right. Like it was a pretty condensed episode. I thought it wrapped things up nicely. It still had some tension, but not a whole lot in terms of like stakes and like what's gonna go down, right? Like I think we saved our big character death for the last episode. And so nothing this time around, but that's fine. Love the action here. Very John Wick-esque.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like in terms of like Din just fighting dudes, dual wielding, right? They're like struggling a little bit. I loved it all.
Getting different weapons from every enemy he defeats.
Right? Oh my God. That was incredible. And so like in terms of this episode, I think I want to break it up into three pieces, kind of the opening action, right? The resolution, and then kind of the aftermath in terms of what we ended off on. And so like how do we feel about that? Essentially the first, I'd say 15-20 minutes, all the action going down, right? The shields, the big fight. How do we feel about all this?
Honestly, like we've been saying for weeks, we need a Mandalorian battle royale.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Every time they were flying, I just imagined it was like 99 Mandalorians drop onto an island.
We've been saying this for weeks.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing cooler than airdropping Mandalorians, dude. Oh my God. And they did it. I think this was the biggest scale, and to have them all fly into.
Not only did they airdrop them, they flew from their capital ships into the drop ships.
Right?
In space. And the cool scene of the TIE fighters, or like them going down into the atmosphere, the TIE fighters coming out. Because, that storm hides like everybody from the radar. So they had no clue that they're, coming at each other.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I loved all this. Especially like I love no one came to rescue Din other than Grogu, of course, right? Mm-hmm. But also Din, it wasn't necessarily needing rescue, right? He was kind of just like, I'll do it myself. Like, here's the moment, I'll fight.
This is the way.
This is the way, right? A little bit of a struggle there, which of course then Grogu comes at the end to to bust out our boy, make sure he's make sure he's all good. I absolutely loved all that stuff. Brett, how did you feel about all this, man?
All right, nitpick number 1. No one was the spy. What? Okay. Like,
I get that 100%.
Yeah.
Like, my whole issue with this season is that they kept like leading. Like, you're right that a lot of things got summed up in this episode, in this season, but like it doesn't feel satisfying to me in a lot of ways. And so the spy, like, they just like walked into a trap. Like, they're that dumb as a group, as a whole. Like, it felt so like it would have been so sweet if Axe was the spy, because he had so much motivation to have like resentment against Bo, and no, he's just cool.
I think the spies are referring to the people that are still secretly part of the Empire. It might be like they purposely made that name ambiguous, so we thought there was a big twist coming.
Right. Yeah, I can.
Is that what you want to do, though? Do you want to like hint that there's a twist and then there's not a twist? I don't know if that's like satisfying.
The real spies are the friends we made along the way.
I get the complaint for sure. I wasn't like we hypothesized here for weeks and all of it was wrong, and so like when it didn't turn out to be the armor, like I was kind of fine with that, right? And like of course she
was more far-fetched just because she would have been undercover for like 20 years or whatever, but like
right,
somebody like Axe or somebody could have, I feel like, been
taken.
But honestly, position. I think this is one of those things that fans kind of took that out of proportion.
Right.
You know, like they just kind of took, the spies. Every episode, like the thing's been about 2 people. So this one could have been, that girl we saw in the beginning of, the spies episode. And then who is it from the Mandalorians? It's them. It was kind of, I think, like a lot of, video game showcases. Like people kind of, if they get too much time, they hypothesize too much and get expectations set too high. I think that was kind of the same.
Where was Mephisto?
See, I would argue though that like they've had the naming convention the whole show where they call it something and then it usually means one or multiple people.
Right.
And if it's like what Jordan said, it's the Imperials, like are they spies even? Like we know they're bad. Like, I don't know. It's like, and I would argue that it's like people trying to find meaning in this season because it was so haphazard pacing wise and plot wise that like,
I agree.
And season 1 and 2, like the culminations of seasons 1 and 2 were so perfect, so excellent that people were like, oh, there's not that like Luke Skywalker was going to show up again, but like something has to hit emotionally to resonate with everyone to make this whole season worth it. And I don't feel like they did that.
Yeah, I agree. That's like one of my few complaints with not only this episode, but this season as a whole for sure. And yeah, although the armor didn't end up being a spy, dude, how cool was it when she like radioed
helmets?
That was awesome. That was awesome. That was really cool.
It was essentially like her like Cap like on the left moment, right? Like, obviously it's not as hype, but like when she's like, Bo-Katan, I got your boys, right? And just Mandalorians start flying down in the cave.
She's just using with her jetpack, having the hammer and just destroying these Imperials on the way down. It's like, imagine that in a battle royale. You don't have any range weapons. You just have this massive Beskar hammer and just doing damage.
In which like we've praised the flight choreography throughout all these dogfights the entire season, and they nailed that down. And then I feel like they were like, all right, now what if instead of ships we do it with Mandalorian and Beskar stormtroopers, dude? And oh my god, it was so hype, dude. I loved it all.
This episode was just an anime finale essentially.
Oh yeah, and then same with like the force fields like from Phantom Menace, and is first of all I thought those guys were just like display armor.
Dude, they're like the fucking people like when you go to like Las Vegas or something and they're like the statue and they're just standing there like
I thought there were statues just showcasing the armor, and so like once they start moving and shit, I was like, "Oh my, what? You're making people just stand? What are they? The British Guard, dude? You're just making them stand outside."
I rewinded
to segments too.
I rewinded thinking maybe I missed something where it was like it was like a shield the entire way through, and they're like in stasis when the shield is on, like, you know, like being inside a giant thing of Jello. And then I'm like, no, they're just standing there all day, but with shields. So it's like if they gotta piss, they gotta like go through 9 people to like get the one shield.
They got the Imperial abyss below that they can just.
That's true. Yeah.
All right. In which, I did like systematically taking each one down, and then you get a blaster, or like you start out with knives, and then you get a blaster, then you get like the riot shields, right? Working our way up that way, like felt. Like to your point, very, very anime as fuck. Which also shout out R5 coming back, redeeming himself from being a fucking snitch. Is this nitpick number 2?
I have more. This is the second one I'm bringing up. Like where is it? It's like 8 for me.
How 8? How many you got?
I was like Martin Luther and his 19 reasons to leave the Catholic Church.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Like there were so many weird like continuity like snafus, like errors. I feel like how did R5 get on the surface of Mandalore? Like, did he just fly down from the dropship? Like, yeah, that was odd. It wasn't a big deal, but I'm like, oh, he's just there. Okay. Same thing with like Grogu just magically showing up next to Din, even though they got separated. Like, okay, cool.
That's true. I forgot about that. That he was with Bo-Katan in the last.
It's just little things like that. Yeah.
Like it was like Paz and Axel like looked after Grogu last episode, and so when Paz is dead and Axel is going up to the surface, I feel like the other Mandalorians gave a shit about Grogu other than Bo-Katan, but Bo-Katan has like bigger matters to deal with at this point, so like everyone else is just like, oh, let the baby go do its thing, you know, go save our boy. Which, you know, I loved it when he showed up. And then the next bit I want to talk about is, of course, like I loved Din and him like understand, like Din's not like, you need to go, like you protect the child at all costs. I love that he was like, you know, all right, we're doing this.
He sees value.
100%. And which,
I have a nitpick about the R5 thing as well, though.
Go for it. 100%.
Months ago, in one of our chats, I think this was just in one. I don't think this was on one of the public community Discord servers. I think it was in one of the private ones. Le'Aaron called me out because I've joked that I would be mean to some of the droids in Star Wars, and one of the examples I gave were the little mouse droids. And Chris Rumblepack92 was like, "How dare you? You would be mean." I was like, "They're fascists because they work for the Empire." Look, you're telling after this episode, do you still believe I shouldn't be mean to those little mouse droids?
They're cops.
Literally, in which I think this is the first time we've seen him like light up with sirens and like activate cop mode and ACAB.
Because most of the time they just run away when they see somebody.
They usually act like Roombas normally. This must be like the advanced model or something. But still, I stand by the fact that I would bully those droids specifically.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd kick one of them like it's a field goal, bro. Like,
easily.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved R5 saving the day, and then once we make it through the action, right, we gotta slow it down a bit, in which we walked through the creepy, cloning chamber room, in which I did like that it was Moff Gideon cloning himself. Yeah. Brett, do we have another nitpick with this room?
Another nitpick. So they show Moff Gideon actively tracking Mando and Grogu,
right?
And he just lets them walk up to his clones and hit the big red button. Like, what? Like, why? That like was like mind boggling to me. And then he traps him in the next room. I'm like,
he's a performer. He likes the theatrics of it all.
If you put that over like just common sense being like, I don't know. That was like another bugaboo. I'm like, really? Like, you just let him destroy those? And because then he was like, because then he knew immediately. He's like, you destroyed him. No. It's like, you were tracking him.
He can only see where they are. He can't see what they're doing. He thinks maybe they're planning an attack, and he's like, nah, I'm going to get them with the element of surprise. And then the door opens and he sees all his dead babies.
If his whole goal is to establish himself as like the next like emperor essentially or whatever, like, dude, have all of the have all your guards guard those tubes. Like, it was just weird. I just was like, yeah.
Which wasn't that the room like immediately after all the like all the lasers and
Yeah.
stuff. Were those guys not guarding it? Like he would like systematically took down like all the dudes guarding it, in which it's also a big ass base, like within like the depths of Mandalore. So like it's if they're like on two opposite sides, like I do get the point for sure in terms of like, you know, like you just let him do it, but also I don't know, I take that as like he's a little too cocky, right? Like he's like, oh, there's 3 force fields and 9 dudes that he has to take, or 6 dudes that he has to take down, right? So like he's not getting in, and then of course he gets in, and
no
they
lock
destroy
though.
it. No, yeah, no lock.
I mean,
just hit.
I don't
hit
think
the
he was
big red
expecting
button.
them to have R5.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's also true. In which, do you guys think the Shadow Council with Project Necromancer? Do you think like he was supposed to be making Emperor clones, but instead he's like, nah, I'm gonna just
I think
do it with me.
Based off of like the Aftermath novels and stuff like that, and just the whole Hux stuff with the First Order, like that's clearly like probably Palpatine related or Snoke. I can't remember if I guess Snoke was, I don't know, but
Right.
it's a whole nother discussion. I think because Moff Gideon, like his whole thing is like he was going out on his own a little bit. So I think it's entirely unrelated.
Yeah, I don't think he was supposed to be doing cloning at all, because he tried to, like, the second somebody like threw it at him in that shadow meeting, he was like, I'm not the one obsessed with clones, you are.
Yeah, that was in the recap on this one.
Okay. Okay. He's just obsessed with himself and making an army of himself with the Force infused, which I did. I did like that we connected it all the way back to season 1 in terms of being like, all right, this is why he like clearly wanted Grogu. And then like moving on to the resolution bit here in terms of the climax, right? We have the fight between Moff and Din, which Bo-Katan sees from a distance and she gets involved. Little fucked up of Moff Gideon to sick the Praetorian guards on a baby, on a literal fucking child. That was like, I was like, oh my god, are we really doing this right now? Like these guys just took down Paz Vizsla and you're gonna like order them to kill a baby, dude. It was a little messed up, I thought, but I loved it all. How did we feel about this entire bit, including Moff Gideon's death and destroying the Darksaber? Like, let's just lump this all in as one.
I thought Moff Gideon's suit was awesome. Like we already saw it last week, but like we actually got to see like the Dark Trooper aspects of it, because you could hear and see the mechanized aspects of it. The fighting choreography was really cool with him and Mando. And then Grogu like taking kind of what he learned from Luke with like the jumping, like you kind of can see that coming back. Right. I'll get back to my nitpicks after that. All right, you guys go. Sorry.
All right.
I thought it was a bold move to destroy the Darksaber.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's do the Darksaber thing right here. I'm very conflicted about it, because on one hand I'm like, okay, well, Din earned it. He didn't want it, right? He passed it on to Bo-Katan, and even when
that was 2 episodes ago,
right? And even Bo-Katan was like, you know, like hesitant to like wield it, or like said she didn't really want that smoke once she had it, right? And that like that's not what's going to unify the people, and which Din then was like, it's not the weapon, it's you, right? Like I'll ride or die with you. And so I like that I thought it was a bold choice to destroy it, right, and move on from that. But at the same time, it's Star Wars, right? We had the grandson of Anakin Skywalker and the granddaughter of Palpatine rip the legacy saber in half just for her to reforge it in the next episode, like in episode 9. I could 110% see that being the case here, in terms of like, okay, well, we damaged the Darksaber, but we're Mandalorians. We're all about weapons. We repaired it, right? So I could
half expecting to see it at the end of the episode there.
Oh yeah, same.
So
same.
I'll chime in as the person that does not have the attachment to the Darksaber, because again, I haven't seen Clone Wars yet. It sounds like I'm going to need to watch it in Rebels before Ahsoka, but we'll get to that bridge when I get to it.
You'll get to it now.
You know,
there's no more Star Wars.
There's still Ted Lasso. I think I'm going to start Succession at some point. Vox Machina's on the list as well. It doesn't matter. A very famous man, I believe it was a president, not one of ours, I think one in Star Wars, who said, let the past die, kill it if you have to. And, the legacy saber getting torn apart by the Force, there was a frame dedicated to it. You saw it being ripped apart. This was crushed in seconds and tossed aside like a Mountain Dew can that these Star Wars fans drink. I think Dave Filoni is telling all of you, fuck this. Listen, I think he's like, I'm done with this corner of the universe. Not necessarily done with
Jordan.
Din.
The thing is he built it up over like 5 shows in like 10 years of sorts.
And I think this is him being like, I'm done. Mandalore's together. She did it kind of with the Darksaber, but look, she can still do it even if the Darksaber is gone. We're all good. This bow's tied neatly. No pun intended. Though,
like, I think it, like, Josh brought up how last week he said, like, even Din said, this weapon means nothing to me.
Yeah.
Like, that was foreshadowing for this moment.
I am the Din of this podcast. Like, it's a cool sword, don't get me wrong. I'm calling it a sword just to piss off the other nerds that are listening to this. But I do think that if this was built up like the way you guys are saying, and he's found ways to keep going back to Mandalore in stories that are not necessarily specific to it, I think this is, if not the end of The Mandalorian, the show about Din Djarin, I think it is kind of like, hey, Mandalore's good now. We're not going to bomb them again. They're not going to have another civil war. It's back,
right.
Phase 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As for the Praetorian Guards, I just you want to go?
Go for it.
I knew they wouldn't, and I don't even think that they should have. But the respect I would have given them if they killed Grogu, I don't think they should have. I think it would be the dumbest move they could, but I'd respect it. I'd be like, damn. They were like, no, this is the story we're telling.
Like, I was like, damn, they're really doing this. But also, they just gave us Jon Favreau giveth and Jon Favreau taketh away, right? He did it with the Darksaber. He voiced the Vizsla 2 that wielded it in the Clone Wars. So it's like, all right, if he wants to destroy it, he'll destroy it. And so he did that with the Darksaber, but he giveth IG-12 and he taketh away, dude. When they just started just ripping him apart, I was like, oh no, dude, I couldn't believe it.
When he started jumping, I thought he was just going to jump too high for them to reach and hide in there, because when we got to the other part where he's like protecting them with the Force, all I could think of was, hey, Din, do you know how much more useful this kid would be if you let him train like a year longer?
Right? Like take him back to Luke, dude. You know?
Have him take more than just like, the intro class.
Yeah. I agree. In which though, like I loved it, and then taking down, Mark 1 of the Praetorian Guards, right? Obviously we see him again, and I would love to see them like come back like bigger and stronger every time until we lead up to the ones we see in episode 8 there.
Find out how they use how they lose the eye holes.
Right? Literally.
Man,
and then go for it.
I saw, it was one of those things, I opened Twitter and it's like, I was good last week, and I stayed on the following tab, didn't see any spoilers, and I didn't necessarily see any spoilers this week. I saw some people like kind of like tweeting out of context. So like one of the tweets I saw was somebody tweeted, it was a group from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 saying that we are Groot.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and it was about Grogu is what something in the tweet said. I'm like,
right.
Oh no, does Grogu die? Like that was like,
right.
First thing I wake up this morning, I'm like, come on.
In which, speaking of Mark 1 of the Praetorian Guards, we got Mark 1 of the Holdo remover, dude. Axel Woves diving the thing down in right into the core of the base. I thought that was awesome. And then that whole moment where Grogu puts up the force field to protect him, and Gideon just fucking dies. I loved it, honestly.
Burnt alive.
In which that's another thing too, and in terms of we get like, we toss that away. I know they could still bring him back as a clone. We could definitely do the whole, he's got, he had a clone chamber off world, right? But I like that. Like, okay, how many times can we foil his plan, right? And stuff like that. And the only thing that like kind of upsets me is we're never gonna see Giancarlo Esposito against Thrawn, right, and have that dynamic, right? In which like I thought there was a lot of potential there.
Flashback.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Now that I think about it, because this Shadow Council, like they was just talking about him coming back. So.
Yeah, his death was like fine, but again, like the way season 2 ended with his capture, like that, like I think he should have died there, or like, I mean, I don't know, just like thematically, the way he got captured in season 2 was so great, and then like, yeah, like he just gets burned alive. Like, okay, like, and I know like he kept coming back, but I don't know, it didn't hit me. Like, it didn't hit me. Like, I don't know, but
I feel that, right? Like you know, he tries to like take his own life once he sees like that Luke has like shown up, right? And he's like scared of the Jedi, right? But it's like as soon as the Jedi is gone, like he's scheming, right, to get back at the Mandalorians. And I thought he was like the best possible protagonist we could have had for an entire group, right, in terms of like he was the one that like inflicted the Night of 1,000 Tears and like has done the bombing, has had this like part with them for so long, right? And so for him to be the big baddie and ultimately go down in their takeover of Mandalore, like I did thematically like that piece.
Yeah, it ties back into like how he showed up, where like he gets like freed off screen, and then he's here, and then like, yeah, it was just like, okay, like he, you know, like from season 2 to now, it's like it was just weird. I don't know, right. But yeah, like, and then the whole Darksaber thing, like, man, you build up this like this mythic symbol, and then like he just crunches it, and it ties into my whole issue with like the whole like Mandalorian clan dispute. Like, we didn't really see any conflict this whole season. Like the armor's like, oh yeah, they're like, we're cool now with them. Like, go recruit them. Okay, like let's fight together. Like, let's not like. And this is where like my issues with like some of the like side episodes come into play. I'm like, you could have dedicated like all these other episodes this time to like fleshing out this, because they won back Mandalore with only 2 clans. Like, there, you know, there's like the Protectors with Fen Rao. There's so many other groups out there that like 100 extra Mandalorians like made the difference. Like, I don't know, kind of weird.
Yeah, so, yeah, I get that complaint for sure. Go for it.
With the lack of conflict between the 2 clans, I think that just shows how much more important it is for them to get their planet back. Something that I've always related to with like looking at the Mandalorian like lore, as somebody who comes from the Middle East, is that I've always felt that Arabs are not strong in the United States because we're worried about not how 90% of us are Muslim and 10% of us are Christian. And I don't think that matters. But like, I think that if we were to come together, I've seen that parallel myself, where don't let religion tear you apart when you're from like the same land and the same country, and your communities are supposed to like intersect, and you're supposed to have like this person's business next to that person's house, and it doesn't matter who believes in what. Like, so that's something I've always related to. And I think that like if push came to shove, and I've seen it, and my parents have told me stories as well, that like when push comes to shove, people do really forget about those things at least in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. I like with the Night of 1,000 Tears, like the fact that the Watch wasn't there, like Bo-Katan and them and Axe and all those group, like they didn't bring that up at all. Like, because the Watch was like Bo-Katan and their group turned us over, they let us down, but they kind of, it's like we didn't get to see any of that. Like, I don't know.
I get that, especially like when our only conflict between Mandalorians was like a little bit of tension when like the groups rolled up together, and then one group was just like, fuck it, we're taking our helmets off, you know, like fuck you. And then like a little bit there, and then the only direct conflict is like was over a chess match on a skid like last episode, right, where like Paz and Axel got into it. But yeah, I totally like see what you're saying. I think that leaves some potential for maybe the future, right? Like, I know there's a lot of people kind of being like, where was Boba Fett, right? Like we didn't get him involved, right? Like we had 4 extra Mandalorians just from like a like faction living on the surface. Couldn't have gotten a 5th, right, and stuff like that. But I think honestly, I think that does leave it open. Go for it.
I think, like you said, leaving it open, like I think now that we have this whole season wrapped up, I think this is just kind of one of those seasons that's just, I'm not saying almost a transition season or like a setup season. Like,
right.
You know, trying to just basically the goal was getting to Mandalore, getting the Mandalorian home world set back up, so that way future seasons can be Mando and Grogu going on adventures and running into other Mandalorians saying, hey, Mandalore's safe again.
Right. In which, directing, going off that, I do want to talk about kind of the aftermath and how we set up going forward. So, Grogu being adopted by Din, bringing back IG-11, right? All that stuff. How do we feel about everything that transpired there? Do we think it's a strong enough foundation going forward?
I think, like, I was a little, I don't say I hated the ending, but it was, to me, like I think Jordan had mentioned at the beginning, just it felt like if they wanted to end the series here, it could end, and I would be fine with it.
Have they confirmed a season 4?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it's been one of those weird things where like they've been like, oh, it can go on forever. Oh, but there's also a culmination movie that's going to tie up a lot of story threads, and maybe it does have there is an ending here, and so it's like it's one of those weird.
They said something about like already writing 4 seasons or 4th, like they've. So who knows what that means, but yeah, kind of.
Right. But yeah, I loved like Din adopting Grogu as his own, and them now, being able to Din Grogu, which I thought it would be like Grogu Din like Djarin, but yeah.
Can I bring something up? So
go for it.
So with this,
yeah,
I felt like he already was his son. Like I didn't feel like and then he's like, I want him to be an apprentice. Like, and maybe they'll do the paperwork off screen, but Armor's like, he's not your son, like legally, and the man is like, he's my son legally now, and then the Armor's like, okay, apprentice. Like, what? Like, that was so, like, I didn't know that was a big deal, and then they're like, it's a big deal, here you go, it's done. Like, it was just so weird with that, and then the naming thing, like, that was weird too. Like, they, over the course of 24 episodes, they never indicated at all that this is how his naming convention goes, and they're like, oh, that's his name, and which is fine, but it's like that's how his like name, like, so I'm assuming that's from like his previous culture, right? But like where he grew up with his parents and stuff like that. But like
Clan of Din.
Yeah, it was just, I was just like
was it like Japanese or Chinese where like the last name comes first?
Yeah.
I know it happens in Korean because Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il. I don't know about Japanese and Korea. So those the only like factual example I could give you are unfortunately those two. But you're right that like that portion of the world does that.
Yeah.
But no, my jaw dropped as well. I was like, you mean to tell me this was a foster kid the entire time?
I like with Star Wars revolving so much around.
It's like fucking Mr. D, or not Mr. Deeds, Big Daddy. It's like he was kind of already his kid. Like, I guess make it legal. Like,
and that's how I felt about it too, right? Because like Star Wars definitely does deal with like a lot of themes around family and found family, especially, and so for them to have a stronger bond throughout the season, I thought, and especially this like last episode, I thought it was like nice to have, that formal. It's like giving adoption papers, really. Like it's like, all right, like let's formally do this, right, to continue that bond and that growth. So
the difference between for like that, why I didn't feel satisfying with the whole adopting thing was like, you look at like something like Kanan in Rebels, or Cal and Fallen Order, where like they officially get knighted, and you see a physical manifestation of that with someone knighting them. And here it's just, oh yeah, he's your kid now. It's like, yeah, we already spent like 20 hours with them. Like, I don't know. It was just like, yeah, I needed like some ceremony or something. I don't know.
I mean, now at least we can now say Pedro is officially a daddy.
Literally.
He's officially a daddy.
But yeah, we didn't need to knight the kid because Lizzo already did that in episode 5.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, we just take him to the baths and we just sign some paperwork, and that's it. In which then those two going off to adventure, and essentially I like where we left off here in terms of to like We're going back to bounty hunting, right? Like I felt like we definitely like lost a little bit of that in season 2 and a lot of season 3, and we got like even the one episode we got him back in Book of Boba Fett, where the episode primarily focused around him. He's like back to bounty hunting, right? Which like felt cool, and so I like that we're going back there, but we're going back there with a purpose, hunting down these Imperial remnants, right?
Yeah.
Like I like that quite a bit. How do we feel about that setup?
I don't.
Do we got another nitpick?
Like on one hand, it's fine. Like I'm sure if they do a season 4 and it's him, you know, like I wrote down, I'm like, this kind of feels like they're co-opting like the Cara Dune plot with this, where it's like he's just going to take out a base every week or something like that. Thematically, it just feels a little off kilter, where it's like you look at, like, let's say you look at these seasons as like a trilogy, and or like comparing to the original trilogy, like imagine like if they made a 4th original trilogy, like original era Star Wars movie, and it's like Luke like doing some like random task, like it just wouldn't feel satisfying. I got satisfying. Like I don't know.
That's just
like,
TV though. Like, you know,
then they should have
run into the ground.
Then they should have they should have just restructured it where this should have been the culmination, kind of like what George said. Like this should have been like the capstone, and it does feel like a capstone of the everything that we've gotten so far in the Mandoverse for Din and Grogu, or I guess Jaren and Grogu. So, yeah, it's just gonna like, oh my gosh, like he was fighting for the fate of Mandalore, and then now he's trying to catch like, you know, some like scumbag Imperial who's like running some little dinky operation on some planet. I don't know. It's just gonna be thematically different, but I mean, it could still actually be on its own awesome, just like as a whole, like, yeah.
In which, like, I do like the idea. I guess this is going to lead to one of my last 2 questions here. All right, of course, we also got him getting the land back and like that perfect, like we said, capstone Thanos moment. But what are our hopes for season 4? I don't even want to get into predictions. Right, we can do that when the season 4 trailer comes out. I just want to know what our hopes are, and like I hope Din does hunt down like the Shadow Council. Like that is one of my big hopes. Right? Is that he finds out about the Shadow Council and like it's like hunting them down. What are you guys
and like
hopes?
Doing jobs for the New Republic essentially? Like he kind of finds some connective tissues or something. Like,
yeah,
I can see that happening. But honestly, like with like, I know it wasn't necessarily the most fulfilling ending, but like it was a good ending. I thought, like, you know, the Mandalorians got their homeworld back. Din Djarin and Grogu are living happy at their little cottage there on Navarro, and you know they're just all kind of off doing an adventure. So it's like one of those things, like they could pop up wherever, you know.
Right.
So
agreed. For sure.
Yeah.
Jordan, you got any hopes for season 4?
I hope season 4 kind of goes back to the like villain of the week format of season 1, and knowing that he's doing these jobs for the New Republic, I think they can tell that story of the Shadow Council, but do it in smaller pieces where there's a little remnant base here and there. One of them has a higher up official. He gets information. He reports that up. And piggybacking off something Brett said when he was like, you know, imagine if a Star Wars 4 was like, well, 4 after the original trilogy was like Luke back on Tatooine, like playing with his toys. I think the difference is like Luke wanted to be something bigger than and serve a purpose. I don't think Din really does. And so I think it'd be really nice.
Hunting.
That's not compelling storytelling then.
But I think that they could give us the story in smaller bits and still leave his personal story as the focus. And the small bits we get from him can be, you know, then used to tell a bigger story in something like Ahsoka or this culmination movie they want to do for this corner of the universe. I personally, I just think I would like to see it go back to not necessarily have no plot for the whole season, but if a majority of the episodes were more about villain of the week rather than the plot, rather than vice versa.
Right. We
Yeah.
go catch back up with Cobb Vanth for an episode and hunt down this dude, or like we go back to see Boba Fett and do this thing, or we go see Ahsoka and take down, this thing. Like, yeah, yeah, I agree. Brett, any hopes for season 4?
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I hope that this reset sort of allows us to get another purpose, like not like another Grogu situation, obviously, but like he takes a mission, he does something, and then like something spurs in where he's like, okay, I have to complete this, like I have to do like yeah. I mean, I'll be fine with villain of the week, but this could be a good reset for a new like era of the show for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like, I hope I've mentioned this culmination movie a lot, but I hope it gives some direction to it, right? Like, I'd love it to be like, Dave Filoni's directing, but it's like Dave and Jon Favreau writing as like a duo team, and Jon Favreau being like a producer and being heavily involved, and that way they can then go back to their shows and like make seasons that lead up to this culmination movie. Because I would like, I think Ahsoka might get a season 2, which if that then builds towards this culmination movie, and then the Mandalorian season 4 and 5 can help build towards this and give it kind of more structure and a more we're leading to something, and instead of I think one of the biggest complaints this season has been like the feeling aimless, right? And so I think having that going forward, like a designated point we want to get to, might help focus the episodes.
Yeah, I'm hoping this is like because this goes back all the way back to like the issues I feel like most people had with Book of Boba Fett, like how that kind of tonally fell off, and they had the resolution with Din and Grogu in there, or Jarn and Grogu, yeah, I just hope that's all ironed out now, and that it's like a new table, like they set the table now, and they can
right,
like chart their path.
Perfect. And then I just want to go round table. One final question. Now that it's all out there, how do we feel about season 3 as a whole? If you want to rate it 1 through 10, give it a number. Absolutely go for it. But how do we feel as about this season, especially compared to 1 and 2?
It's been a while since I've watched the first 2 seasons, so it's a little harder for me to compare it to them. But I actually still enjoyed this season, even though it was kind of aimless. Like how I always say with Bad Batch, it was just a lot of good, like Star Wars comfort food almost every week. Like you had some amazing dog fights all throughout the season. The action was choreographed extremely well, and you got to get some really cool moments all throughout the season. So it would probably, if I did have to rate, I'd probably put it like a 7 or an 8. It's a solid season. Nothing like spectacular, but yeah.
I like it. Jordan, Brett.
You have more nitpicks?
I mean, we can get into it if we want. For me, overall, the season, it was fine. I kind of wrote like that the season overall had like great action, awesome visuals, but like weird continuity errors, store decisions, and it lacked the heart of what made season 1 and 2 great. Is kind of what I wrote down here. I'd probably, just for like comparison's sake, I'd probably give season 1 a 9. I'd give season 2 a 10. Probably give season 3 like a 6. Honestly, 6.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, a strong rent don't buy on the IGN scale. Oh my god.
Well, only because Alec gave it a 7 or 8. So
right.
Just for reference, yeah.
It's been a while since I've watched the first 2 seasons, so the parts I remember might just be like, me remembering just the good stuff. Because I think that is what sticks with you with anything you watch or consume is really the better parts of it. I think this was the weakest season, but I don't necessarily think it was a bad season per se. And I think it's better than Book of Boba Fett was. So it's crossed that bar for me.
Right. I agree with a lot of like what all y'all have said. And it's like they're different. There are certain aspects I liked a lot more this season than compared to
Mhm.
like last, right? Like the monster of the week stuff or like the side quest, side mission episodes. I liked a lot more this time around than in season 1 and 2. I like the objective and the overall goal this season a lot more, right? Like the first season was like, okay, protect the child. The second season was like, find this child's people. Versus I like now returning to Mandalore, right? Redeeming Din, and getting the group back together. And I liked, that we got there quick, right? And there was, some definitely padding out of other stuff to build up towards a finale here. But also, like what Brett said earlier, is like I was really missing that emotional like sting that we had in the first two seasons, right? Whether it be the Ugnaught dying in the penultimate episode of season
Come
one, and
on,
then lose.
Quill.
Pardon? Quill,
Quill.
Quill, Quill.
Yeah.
I'm so bad with Star Wars character names, dude. With losing him, and then IG-11 making that ultimate sacrifice, right, and then revealing his face. Like we had great moments there, and of course, like the Luke stuff at the end of season 2. We were missing something along those lines here, right? We really only got Paz Vizsla going down, but yeah, it's difficult. I give it an 8. Like I don't think there's a bad season of this show. There's just it's just there were some higher highs in 1 and 2,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, I love the action and all the stuff overall.
You
And
know what?
certain elements are better, but certain elements are weaker for sure.
I take back my score. Give it a 2 out of 10. No Sabine.
Damn, really
'Cause
riding
I
for
thought-
that Rebels.
I wish.
I said the return for a split second. I'm like, is it gonna be it? Are we gonna see her?
They're saving it for Ahsoka.
I know,
They're
I know.
100%. Yeah.
I was shocked we didn't get like a teaser or some sort of like, hey, like here's where, because they've said it themselves. It's the Mandoverse. It's all this is obviously connected. Like, so they're just like ended on that Looney Tunes shot. So,
Which I thought that was funny. There's so many campy, cheesy little moments
Honestly,
throughout Star Wars.
I want that as like one of those like live wallpapers for my computer, for my PC. Like that'd be so cool. Just have Din like sitting in his rocking chair. You see Grogu playing with the frog. Like that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, I was like one last little like comedic beat to end us off. I thought that was yeah, that was great. But yeah, going back to the Rebels and Thrawn stuff, like I do like that because I hope Ahsoka takes place after the season, right? So that way that power vacuum can just be filled and Thrawn can be a wrecking force going forward. But we will see that in August. We'll be back covering that probably on a week-to-week basis. Until then, though, there's going to be some Jedi Survivor content coming your way, right? And some more Fallen Order stuff next week. Maybe Visions 2 recap, Volume 2 recap. We might come back for that. You'll just have to stick to shared screens, subscribe, hit the bell to know when we're back talking Star Wars. Like this video if you like this episode, and comment down below what you thought of season 3, where you hope we're going in season 4, and what you thought about this episode. But until then, we will see you on the next. This is The Waypoint.
This is the way.